Hi, this is Erin from Blossy Bee. Welcome to my channel. The plan for this video is to create my largest resin make to date, a large decorative bowl. I'm going to use temporary tattoos to decorate the sides and base of the bowl. So let's get started. This is the mould that I plan on using, and these temporary tattoos I will link below the video where I unboxed them. They are stunning. They are gold foiled looking tattoos, temporary tattoos, and I love the idea of having these feathers. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut out each of the single feathers, and the idea is to decorate the sides of the bowl facing outwards and also the base of the bowl. And after cutting out all of the pieces, I decide that I'm going to use a pattern where I have the beautiful green and gold feathers on top of or below a gold feather. So they'll sit in pairs all around the edge of the bowl. So you'll see me now just setting them all up and working out how the pattern can go. And I like to do this so I can get a visual on how it's going to sit around the bowl, and whether all the pieces work together. And yeah, so I was pretty happy with this idea. So I ended up just getting a little bit of sticky tape and sticking two of the feathers, just random two, to the edge of the bowl, because what I want to do now is flip that mold inside out so that I can actually put these temporary tattoos onto the part of the mold which will then become the outside of the mold. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I needed to do it this way so I could visualize exactly where I had to put the temporary tattoos for this to work. So hopefully it makes sense as I go along. So I just go ahead and start placing the temporary tattoos into the position that I think would work. And of course, when you're working with these, you need to remove that top protective layer of film. Otherwise, when you dampen the back of the tattoo with water in a cloth, all you're going to be doing is adhering that tattoo to that plastic film and it will never work. So this is what I'm doing here, and just placing the tattoo on. They feel slightly adhesive. It's probably more just sort of clinging with static or something, but popping them on and then using a damp sponge to press down, and you'll find that after you've thoroughly sort of wet that paper layer, it will just get to the point where it will slide off and you'll be left with that tattoo on your mould. And there's nothing else I do. I don't do anything else to prepare the mould. And yeah, it just comes off perfectly. Having said that, it doesn't always come off perfectly. I think the next video that I upload, you'll see doesn't always work out that way, but this was going quite well. So I'm going to start fast forwarding now, so you can just get through the part where I'm working my way around the bowl, putting these into the pattern that I've designed. I've decided to have one feather going one way, one the other, and then for the next set I flip that. So, and look at the beautiful detail in these temporary tattoos. They are just stunning. Yeah, so at the start of this video, you'll see my hands are quite normal. I started filming this actually the day before I had my hand surgery. So I did this make, and then it sat unmolded for quite a little while. So then you'll see further in the video when I get to the demolding that I'm wearing a cast, and then towards the end I'm wearing a splint, which is what I've currently got. So if you observe those changes, that's what's happening. That's why. So I finished applying those. I ended up with 6 sets, so 12 temporary tattoos around the outside. And I am just loving how they look. They look so pretty and so shiny and so glossy. So I'm just going around now with a piece of paper towel, and I'm gently just dabbing and checking that there's no excess moisture there and that they are fully adhered to the mould. And then, this bit made me very nervous, but it worked really well. I'm just flipping it over back into its regular position, and all of the feathers stayed put and were just gorgeous. Now, I didn't start out planning to put something into the middle of the base of the bowl, but I just couldn't leave it. I was so happy with how these temporary tattoos went on, and yeah, so I started fiddling around with some other tattoos and trying to come up with a little pattern that I liked. And you'll see I ended up coming up with a circular design, and I used another part of a temporary tattoo to make a little centerpiece. And I was really happy with this because it gives the bowl a lovely focus, and of course it's all the same sort of feathers, so the theme just carries all the way through. So while those tattoos were completely drying out, I took one of the other little pieces from those sheets, and I'm actually adhering it to its own protective film. And I'm doing this because I would like a transparent background to do some little colour tests with, to just double check the idea I had in my head for the background to pour the bowl with. And so I've done this with that same sort of tattoo family colouring, and I'm going to use this pad from, I think it's Kmart Anko brand, of all different cardstock in different colours, and I'm going to use that just to double check my thinking. So I had in my head a colour I was aiming for, but I just wanted to see what these beautiful metallic sort of foil temporary tattoos would look like on different coloured backgrounds. So that's what I'm doing here. And look, it really did just confirm that the colours I was looking at were towards the end there were what I was going for. So I've decided to go for almost a natural timber sort of a colour, and I want it to be quite glossy, and I want it to be quite rich, and I'm going to end up with using two different, slightly different pours. So I'm doing 2 cups up. I couldn't duplicate this mixture again if I just couldn't, because it's like a bit of mad scientist witch's brew going on here. So I'm just adding in a whole variety of different pigment colours, and I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm exceeding the recommended additive level, which is normally you work at around 5% of the volume. But I have definitely gone over that. I'm very experienced with using this resin. It's the River Art 2:1 epoxy deep pour, and I know that it is quite forgiving towards this sort of thing for me, wouldn't recommend anyone else try it unless you have a practice first. And I'm just using really no-name mica powders and adding in, I started off with a gold colour and then lightened that a bit, and then I've darkened a bit, and so now I've got this beautiful sort of rich brown sort of, that wood sort of colour. And so I've taken a little bit of that out and popped it into another cup, and now I'm going to make up a slightly different blend so that I get that just, it's not just a plain boring sort of colour all the way through. So this is going to be a colour I pour almost at the same time, but I just want it to be a little bit different and have those two colours going on. So I feel like I'm just so happy with the colours at the moment. They're just glossy and gorgeous, and I'm, tweaking as we go. And yeah, I'm very grateful for the fact I'm using a deep pour resin and 2-to-1 resin, because it does give you a lot longer pot time, so you can actually fiddle around and adjust and get it exactly right. So when I'm happy with those mixtures, I go ahead and just start pouring. And oh my goodness, this must be one of the most satisfying resin pours I have ever done. This colour, this mixture is just luxurious. It's just, even just watching it now as I'm doing the voiceover, I can just remember thinking this is just so pretty and just so silky and velvety looking, and it had just such depth to it. And yeah, look, it was beautiful. I mentioned at the beginning, this is the largest resin pour I've ever made, and it was just gorgeous, sumptuous. So I've added both of those different pots in there, and just letting it all flow down the sides. Look at that. Look how beautiful it is. And then I've just had a little bit of clear left over, which I've mixed with both of the remaining mixtures and poured that in. And I just love it. It almost looks like a beautiful tree trunk that's just been cut through, and you can see the rings in it. I couldn't believe it. I had in my head this idea for a sort of a timber looking finish, and it was just so incredible to me that I was actually seeing that in the way that the resin poured into that mold. It was gorgeous. I was so happy with this. So you can probably tell resin always does whatever it wants to do, and just over the next few minutes it changed and moved, which was mesmerizing, and I ended up I couldn't walk away from it. I just kept fiddling with it, swirling it around. I knew probably wouldn't make any difference whatsoever, but there we go. Now, I did have a little bit of resin left over, and I tinted it a similar colour, and I'm just going to go ahead and pour that into this little set of 6 resin pendants or keychains, and it worked out perfectly. It was the exact correct amount. So, as I mentioned, this was the day before I went into surgery, so I had been hoping that I would be demolding it the next day, but I only found out that night that I was, scheduled. So it was a good week or so, or perhaps more, before I get back to it. But I enjoyed this pour probably more than any other. It just was beautiful. Okay, so fast forward in the future, and it is now time to demold. I really wanted to get my hands on the bowl, but I thought I'd demold the hearts first, show some patience, and they came out really pretty. Some of these, interestingly, just had some tiny little bubbles, and I think it was because I sprayed the mould with isopropyl alcohol, and I don't think I should be doing that as much as I have been. I've seen some others do it, and I think sometimes it works, and then other times I think it can actually cause this little sort of a pocked surface. I'm really not quite sure of the science behind that or the whys, but look, they're still really pretty, and you'll see shortly what I do with them. So I start to demold. I'm hopeful I can do this on my own, supporting it with my left hand in the cast and just using my right hand. But no, so I pass that off to my wonderful helper and just wait for it to be handed back. And here we go. And I get to pull the last little piece of the mould off. And ta-da! I just even looking at it now, it was just so beautiful. The colouring was exactly what I had in mind. It's just so rich and velvety in colour and so pretty. The bottom part of the bowl has quite a sharp edge, so I'm just running my deburring tool around. These are a very easy tool to use, and you only need one hand. And all that does is it just has a little blade. It's a swiveling blade, and it follows the material around and just takes off that sort of rough, sharp edge. Resin can get very sharp, and this is normally a byproduct of not filling a mould all the way to the top, or sometimes even overfilling it, you can get that edge. So, I thought I scratched my bowl there. I can remember thinking, but no, it all came out beautifully. All right, and look at the edges, just those tattoos, and you can't feel them at all. The edges of this bowl are as smooth as velvet. The inside is the same, you can't feel them. I'm just pointing out there, I think I had 2 or 3 of the teeniest, tiniest little air bubbles, which I couldn't care less about. It didn't change the way I thought about the bowl at all. So this next part was a disaster, and I'll tell you why. Before I had my hand surgery, I had my right eye lasered with corneal surgery because I have had a problem with my cornea, and I thought I was doing okay. I knew I felt a bit wobbly and my vision was a bit strange and blah, blah, blah. But I started cutting out these little tattoos, thinking, oh, I can do this. I can, I can hold the scissors in my right hand and do this and that and the other. Oh, I thought I was going great. And then I started applying the temporary transfers, and pretty much all of them were just so wonky and lopsided, and I obviously couldn't see properly. So I fast forward through this. I'll show you just the first one that I did. And I wrecked this, but I ended up sort of kind of fixing it, and I think it looks fairly pretty. But yeah, I'm going to fast forward through. You will see that when I come to doming them, they are different, and that's because I had to scrape a lot of them off and restart a week or two later. And yeah, I was silly. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have thought I had some sort of superpower and was able to do it. So I'm just using a UV resin to dome these. I've got the little silver container, just you can just see to the left, has got warm water in it. And I've just I've got two little UV resin bottles that I'm working with. So I've just set my resin in there to keep it warm. And I'm working on this still in daylight, but it's towards the end of the day, so not a lot of UV rays coming through. And I'm just popping on some UV resin onto each piece and then using a silicone tool to drag it towards the edges. And then I'm using my UV torch to cure the resin in place. And after I've finished these, I do go and sit them in the biggest UV torch of all time, the sun, just to finish them off. So I'll forward through here, but as you can see, I did manage to decorate each of the pieces. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these as yet. They could be keychains or chunky pendants or, yeah, not at all sure, but you'll see shortly how they look after all being cured. So we've come to the end of what feels like a very, very long make. Weeks and weeks and weeks in the making, and lots of changes in my life during it. But if you've stuck through all of this, stick on a little bit longer, because you'll get to see some photos of the completed items at the end. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for everybody's support and kind thoughts at the moment. It means the world to me to be sharing my craft again, and sharing this crafting journey with you. And if you are interested in seeing more of my work, you're very welcome to subscribe and to look through at my back catalogue. I've got nearly 80 videos up now, which I'm very proud of. They're all different things. So and yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.